Hi.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're good. I just need to pull up my next questions. But
That's
while I'm
okay.
doing
I
that,
literally just downloaded Gender Fair and was listening to the conversation and already posted on my Instagram about it to get other people to download the app. So that was a really great talk.
this is why I adore you. Everybody, this is Ashley Bouder. We are good friends, but also Ashley is it's incredible to watch your friend do extraordinary things in real time. And I get to watch Ashley do that time and time again on the stage at New York City Ballet. She is one of the best dancers of our lifetime. She has won the Benoit de la Dance, which is basically the Oscars of dance. There they are back there. She dances as the Swan Queen, Aurora, and Sleeping Beauty. Most recently, had the pleasure of watching Ashley dance on stage with her daughter, who is I am her fairy godmother, her little nugget Violet, who danced as an angel during Nutcracker while Ashley danced as the Sugar Plum Fairy. To watch a mother and daughter on that level of a stage together was a once in a lifetime moment. But to know them and to have watched Violet be brought into this world and be one of the first persons for people to hold her and be such good friends with you. It was truly a privilege and a pleasure. And I just, please tell us about that experience because I think it's a wonderful place to start. You are molding the next generation. You have the biggest platform in terms of dance to share that with the world. And I'd love to just hear about, recently the Nutcracker, it's a beloved institution in New York, happened. Ashley danced as the Sugar Plum Fairy while her daughter was on stage with her dancing as an angel in the ballet. So please share that experience while I pull up questions.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of like a full circle moment. Like when I was pregnant with Violet, actually, the last thing I ever danced before taking my maternity leave at 20 weeks pregnant was Sugar Plum Fairy. So she was on stage with me already in that role, but you know, she loves to dance. She walks around on her toes all the time and loves that. And so of course we put her in ballet and um, I don't know, just being like I've been in the company for 25 years and I haven't seen many mother-daughter duos. There's been a couple, but not in this particular way. And so for me, I don't know, it was amazing. I actually don't really like the role of Sugar Plum Fairy. It's like not my cup of tea. It's very pretty and delicate, and I'm more of like a like
Fierce.
yeah, like fierce, like jump and fly and spin around and um I've never enjoyed that solo until that moment when I looked over at Violet and I saw her little cute face looking up at me, and that was I think it was one of the coolest experiences of my life.
I cried there. I'm kind of crying now because watching her watch you was amazing. And so I think what's really exciting about this, and we're talking about logic and how does ballet apply to logic and where is the crossover there? As a young girl, you aspire to be a ballerina. I think that's really one of the first jobs that you look at in terms of, when you're asked at that young, impressionable age, what do you want to be? You want to be a ballerina. But to understand and to watch your journey as a ballerina, it's been remarkable. It's been eye-opening. I think the dance community where, there's been such progress in some capacities, there's been so much lack of progress in terms of directors and choreographers. And I'd love for you to just kind of share. I mean, you moved to New York City alone when you were 15?
15.
15, you decided I'm going to do this. And you did. So
Yeah.
please just tell us and share a little bit about your journey into the dance world. You started under the Peter Martins, era at New York City Ballet. Just, please explain, what that was like going into School of American Ballet, transferring out into a principal dancer, and what that evolution is like so that we can understand as viewers kind of that journey that you went on.
Yeah, so I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and where I grew up just happens to have like one of the most remarkable ballet schools in the world. And so I got to train there, and I came to New York specifically because I wanted to be in New York City Ballet. And the one of the only ways to get into New York City Ballet, unless you audition at a later time after you're already established as a dancer, the only way to get in is that you're handpicked from the School of American Ballet, which is where my daughter goes. It's why we got to perform together. And so you know that if you want to be in New York City Ballet, that's where you have to go. And so I wanted to go there. I came up and I auditioned, and I remember I grew up on like hardwood floors dancing, and the floor was all of a sudden sprung, and I couldn't even stay on the music because I was jumping too high because it was like too exciting to jump on that hard floor. But after that audition, I got a full scholarship. They asked me, "What do you need to come here?" And I said, I need everything. I come from, you know, a middle class background where we couldn't afford those thousands of dollars just for a 5 week summer program. It just didn't, make sense for my family. It wasn't doable. And so they gave me a scholarship. A couple of days into the summer program, they offered me a scholarship and a free ride for the year, and I stayed. And by the end of that school year in June, I found myself as an apprentice with New York City Ballet already. I was there performing with the company. And less than a year after that, I was doing my first really big principal role at the age of 17. I danced the Firebird last minute. I learned it in like 2 hours. Everybody was injured. Peter Martins, my boss, was out of town. So, I learned it from, the rehearsal director, Sean Lavery. I had a great partner, Chuck Askegard, and he talked me through it. It was really great. And I'm still dancing that role. I'm actually dancing it in a month for my retirement. So that's kind of more of a
Wow.
full
Because
circle moment too.
that's now public, and I think let's just talk about that. You've been a principal dancer for
20 years on the 22nd.
20 years. That that's remarkable. As mentioned at the top of the call, you've danced all of these incredible roles. You are, one of the best dancers in the world. Um, 20 years, that's remarkable. What are you hoping for in your retirement? And we're going to talk about what's next, but just focusing on this time in your career and really staying in the moment. What does that mean to you to end your career as Firebird, but also this incredible journey that you've taken to get here? Would love to just kind of like understand more about that. Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, sorry, got it.
There you go.
Um, yeah, I mean, this is like, Firebird is my favorite role ever. And that automatically just dancing it for these past over 20 years, it means a lot. Um, there was a lot of, I would say like serendipitous things that went into the beginning of my career, like why I got these parts, when I got them so early, because we don't really see that much anymore in the dance world, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. I think, people go out now more prepared and everything, but there was something like very adventurous and risky about putting a 17-year-old on stage in a part that like they didn't know. But also really,
Remarkable.
yeah, but also just like really fun. And, I think my former boss, Peter Martins, had like a flair for that and a good eye. Like he knew that when people would be successful, even though it was kind of a crazy notion to like send someone out like that onto the stage in front of thousands of people who've paid hundreds of dollars for their tickets, it's a risk.
Right.
And, I think that just doing this performance to me is like after all of these years, after refining the role, after having multiple coaches in it. My first coach has passed away, Sean. One of my other coaches, Albert Evans, who I had in the role, has also passed. So it's, this role for me has been a lifetime,
Mhm.
and to be able to finish and kind of like, I don't know, sew up my career neatly with that, and being able to do it just one more time is, I don't really have words for how special that is.
It was the role you danced when your first role back after Violet. I remember
Yeah,
going
it
to
was one of the first roles after Violet.
Yep.
Because I told my boss I didn't want to wear a leotard yet. So he let me wear a tutu.
It's nice. I mean, I can't imagine what that, well, I saw the workouts you did to bounce back after Violet, and it was great. But that said, for those who want to attend, your final performance is February 13th. You will be dancing the role of Firebird. For those who want to join, please, buy tickets and reach out. Maybe we can set something up. That said, I want to talk about the gender inequities in the ballet world and kind of shift to a more serious note, because as a dancer, it's funny, like I talk to people and I love the power of movies and how they can form discussions about the world as we see it. And, this movie, Black Swan, came out years ago and everybody saw it and Oscar winning, but we saw firsthand, and this was pre Me Too and pre all of that, what the ballet community was like. And in having conversations with you, it was very on point. And so we are watching these girls be abused. We're watching them go into situations where they're so young and there's men of such power influencing their life, their livelihood. What can you say about the pre-Me Too ballet world, the post-Me Too ballet world, and really kind of like set the stage in terms of like where we're at, and just the disparity of powerful women in the community to help uplift women? I think there's a void there, and I would love for you to kind of speak and share your experience in that capacity.
Yeah, I wrote kind of like an op-ed for Huffington Post when Black Swan came out. And, I think, there was a huge uproar, especially in the dance community, where they were like, this isn't accurate and blah, blah, blah. People thought it was a lot, that movie. And I think my point about it was, but all of these things exist in the dance world, not in one person, like Natalie Portman's role in that. It's like they don't all exist in one person, but all of those things exist. The overbearing stage mom, the eating disorder, the boss that's like that, the rival person, like all of those things. And I think that the point of the film was, to be sensationalistic about it, and to prove a point that none of those things, even on their own, is okay.
Right.
And so, that was like pre Me Too. And I think that, was maybe the beginning of something in the dance world where we recognized the people on screen. We recognized the people we knew in our lives in those actors, and started to think hard about it. And, I'm in New York City Ballet, and so we had a huge reckoning with a Me Too moment in 2018. And Peter Martins resigned, several dancers resigned and were fired, all male. And, there were various outcomes to each of their stories, but it was a huge thing for everybody in the entire dance world to look at, every company to look at who their boss was, who these people that were surrounding them were, what had happened to others. And now that we're in sort of a post Me Too moment, I think we've just kind of disguised things with different language sometimes, and still are kind of like the pendulum is, I think, swinging back, where we see a little bit more loose behavior. I don't want to point anyone out, or or say something like that, but I think like we had a really huge pendulum swing where it went all the way to being on the point of everyone was scared to do anything or say anything. And
Mhm.
now we're coming back down from that. But it's also, I think it really made people look at who was in leadership. And I think that's more of this conversation is, who's running these companies, and what behavior, and what's okay, and
Mhm.
what's going to be passed off as okay. Because I think a lot of the times, at least in my opinion, I think of the leadership in ballet as kind of like a boys club,
Mhm.
and I think that's very much a thing in business. You know, I learned that in my undergrad. I have an undergrad in political science and organizational leadership. And when we talk about getting women into leadership, it gets really hard because if men are in charge, the way a lot of times the path to leadership, that mentorship that you're looking for is in the down times, right? It's not
Mhm.
formal, it's the informal things. It's like the drink after work, or it's the informal conversations, and that looks very different between two men and a man and a woman.
Mhm.
And so I think, you know, that for me, with looking at how this ballet world is changing, it the dynamic at the top has to change for more people to come behind them.
Yeah. And I want to kind of just put out some stats so that people can understand. Among the largest 150 ballet and classically influenced companies, only 29% of works were choreographed by women during the 2021-22 season. Only 12% of works that made up an entire evening, either full length or mixed bill, were choreographed by women. I know this is something that there's a void, a lack of women, female artistic directors, female choreographers. And where is the gap? At what, you have this, you have an incredible amount of women. Every girl wants to be a ballerina. And then ultimately, to get to that highest role of the ballet community, there's a serious lack, and men kind of take in at a certain point in time and overtake. What is that kind of dynamic like? I know for you, you've wanted to do much. You started the Ashley Bouder, um, the Ashley Bouder Project, which was an incredible entity that supported women choreographers. I got to meet some amazing women in your efforts there. We'll talk about your next, evolution of your career, but really kind of, I think this is something that the logic, where is the logic? You have these women who dance these roles, yet they don't go on to be able to have an influence in the actual dance community from an artistic and director position. So I'd love for you to just kind of, illuminate what's happening, what do we need to do better, and really kind of, highlight the issues in that capacity.
Yeah. I think it, you know, it starts from when you're young because uh like you said, you know, most little girls want to be ballerinas, right? So the pool of young female dancers is big, and versus how many little boys are taking ballet, right? So we already as females are at a disadvantage because the competition is fierce. You know, there are, when you look at ballet companies, I would say, um, my husband asked me this. He goes, "How?" Because we were talking about gender parity, and he said, "What percentage do you think of dancers and companies are male versus female?" And I said, "I think it's about like 60-40, sometimes more like 65-35, something like that. Obviously more women." And I think that that combined with the kind of training you get, and I've definitely like written papers about this, that it's just the time consumption for females to sewing point shoes time,
Mm.
right? When
Right.
we perform, putting on our stage
And speak
makeup, like,
about that. What does that equate? Like, people don't understand that you, the dancer, you're doing your own hair and makeup, you're doing all
yep,
of that stuff. You are one of the highest
yes.
level dancers,
So
and you handle all that extra work.
I
Obviously,
handle
you
all
have
of
people
that.
doing the costume and all that, but please explain that kind of
Yeah.
behind the scenes additional kind of
Yeah.
work that you're doing.
So like sewing a pair of point shoes, like for me at my level, I can sew a pair of point shoes in 5 minutes, right? But I also only put 3 stitches in and I only wear them for a day. If I'm going to wear them for a month, like a student, like I am meticulously sewing them. It could take an hour for a young dancer who's not familiar with sewing or not good at it, right? To do that. That's an hour that the female dancer is spending on sewing their point shoes. That doesn't even mean like breaking them in. And that is a whole nother thing because they come and they're stiff and they're glued and they're hard, and you have to manipulate them and bend them and do all sorts of things. You bang them on like cement, you do all sorts of things to them. We're talking about a lot of time that female dancers spend doing that versus the male dancers who don't dance on point. And, you know, I mean, I'm not talking about male dancers who do want to dance on point, or the trans community. And there's a whole, that's a whole different conversation in the dance world. But if we're just going to talk male to female, and what I experienced growing up, because we didn't have that kind of crossover when I was in my teens, or even when I went on point earlier than that. And it's a significant amount of time. And when we're talking about like stage makeup, like my stage makeup, I've got to put the false eyelashes on and like the big eyeliner. It's like, you know, it's a crazy amount. And then putting my hair up into my bun and putting my tiara on and all of that versus what guys do. And, a lot of my male colleagues will tell you that like they spend a lot of time on their hair too. They blow dry it and they put their like bouffant on. I get that, but it's different.
Right.
It's still less time than female dancers have to put in for just to get ready to dance, not even dancing. And then when you talk about the training, and it's, we have extra point classes and all of these things, male dancers have a lot more free time. And to me, I think when we're talking about like the choreographer conversation, that free time for male dancers, that's free time, right? You get to explore in your mind or with your body what you want to do. Go fool around in the studio and make up steps, make up dances, do all of this stuff. But for a female dancer, they are way more occupied with like tasks to do, right? It's kind of busy work. Like sewing my point shoes is busy work. It's not creative. And so, there's a lot of like a time ratio when you're younger. And then when we're talking about like choreographers and future leaders, I think a lot of times, ballet companies are run by people who are choreographers because they have that dual role of running the ballet company, but they create the ballets that people are dancing. And that makes sense, right? That makes sense because you're going to hire the dancers that look good in your choreography. Your company's going to look good. But where do the female choreographers come from then? And so now a lot of places at like, School of American Ballet, where my daughter goes and where I went, they have a female choreography workshop, which is great, right?
Right.
Very focused on the female dancers there and giving them the opportunity that they might not otherwise have, but also, stepping into a male dominated field is intimidating. I think we all know that, and we know that, the kinds of things people say about females stepping in there, and asserting yourself and doing things that like not a lot of women do. And so I think having programs like that are just female focused is giving people, giving young girls, if we're talking about teenagers, we're giving those girls the option to be bold and saying it's okay, right? Like put yourself out there. But putting yourself out there as the only female is a little intimidating. And so
Right.
I think that's like one place that we can help, but it's also a pathway to leadership needs to be defined, because the informal
That's
mentoring
kind of
is,
logical, right? Like give you the path to get there. And I think too, I think that talks about raising the next generation. Beautiful article came out about you and Violet in Yahoo prior to you guys dancing together, and I think it highlighted a lot of what you've gone through as a mother and wanting to protect your daughter, understanding from a level of experience what can happen. How are you making certain that her eyes are wide open to what's going on, but also you're keeping that hope alive, you're keeping her, inspired and aware, but also, like how are you navigating that road with her as she steps into this world that you know so much about?
yeah. Well, I mean, Pete and I, Pete, my husband, it's that, we don't really lie to our daughter. We don't hide things from her. And so everything I've been through in the ballet world, she knows about. She knows about, body shaming, and what I've gone through and how I feel about it, because I tell her. And she knows exactly what has happened to me. And we don't, some things you sugarcoat a little bit because she's 8 years old, but I don't really hide anything from her. I do send her in with her eyes wide open, but I also instill in her, like, I love dancing. I love ballet. I really believe in the art form. I just believe it can be better. So,
Right,
for me, creating Ashley Bouder project and putting female creatives out there, hiring female, you know, choreographers, composers, everything to give people those opportunities and and showing her that like this is how we do the future, and to be proud of herself, of her body, to be comfortable in her own body and healthy.
right,
Right. So it's I a lot of times I see what I call a skinny contest going on in the ballet world, where you see one person lose weight and they get a big part, and then everybody starts losing weight and it becomes this whole thing. And I don't participate in that. I don't like that. I want to feel good in my own body, but I make sure I tell my daughter that, don't compare yourself to that thing, right? Like you're eating well, you're exercising in doing your ballet classes, and that's good enough. And if you're happy dancing, great. If you're not, fine as well
right,
too. Is that it's not the end all be all.
right. So that said, your next role and where you're going, obviously, you've had a brilliant and storied career at New York City Ballet, but I am sad to see you finally um, hang up those shoes because you're still freaking, you got it. I mean, watching you dance Sugar Plum, it was beautiful. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Anne Hathaway's behind backstage with us, just commenting on how beautiful and brilliant and your back bends and all of the things. Like, we the same age. I'm a little older than you, but to oh my God, I don't want to see you leave the dance world, but I also know it's hard. And as we get older, our body doesn't bounce back the way it used to. And but you still look incredible, and I'm so excited to see you dance Firebird. But that said, what is next for you, and what are your aspirations with this next project in terms of creating a more logical space, a more gender equity space in the ballet world and the arts world in general?
Yeah, so I started this new company, Ashley Bouder Arts, and Kate, you're on the board.
I'm on the board.
She's on the board. And one of the big endeavors that I want to do is choreographic workshops that focus on females. And so, creating a safe space, because you can't get better at your craft unless you practice. And a lot of times for female choreographers, I see, and when we talk about the stats of like what works we see on stage created by male versus female, a lot of the times, and when we see like full evenings of somebody's work, it's usually a male, right? But that means that they have enough material that's been good. So they've had enough not good ones that we've thrown away and good ones that we've kept to create a full evening. And a lot of times I see people like check that female box, which to me is like worse than just not hiring a female. You hire her once and you don't give her another chance. And I see a lot of times male choreographers get chances over and over and over again, even though their work sometimes never gets to that level, right? But if a female gets to this level, we're not going to hire her. If a male gets to this level, we're going to give him another chance to get up here. And
Mhm.
that is very frustrating. And so for me to create a space for people to feel safe, to fail, right? To or succeed, like, like, and then try to, if we have good material, get them on a stage somewhere, right? But just offer that safe space to practice your craft, to choreograph, to give you dancers to work with, and the time to dedicate to your own growth for women, to me is incredible. And that's what I want to give. I want to give the time, the space, the opportunity, and then when we've done that for a while, let's create like a big summer dance festival and put all those works on stage so that the public can see them.
The
So that,
Lilith Fair of dance, if you will.
yes, there we go.
Let's get Sarah McLaughlin involved. Anyway, with that said, Ashley, Again, it is a privilege to know you, to watch you. Again, I can't wait. February 13th, please, those in the audience, join us at Ashley's final performance. With that said, again, sending love to our people on the West Coast. I think we're all aligned in that this is just horrible to watch and just want to put the good energy out there. But also, thank you to the team at World Logic Day and the United Nations for creating this platform for us to share our stories. If you want to learn more about Ashley's career, you can follow her on Instagram. You connect with me on Instagram as well, Kelley with an Kate Kelley with an E, 12. And we're very grateful for this platform, and we look forward to the next conversation. Thank you again, Ashley, for making the time, and everybody enjoy your day.
Thank you.